The 7 deadly sins were witnessed at Anfield. Gluttony. Salah, Nunez, and Gakpo were eating up the goals. Absolute gluttons. Fornication. His name is Antony, the prostitute. What does he even do on the football pitch? We'll get into that. Greed. Liverpool greedy. Gluttony, as I say, in their intake of goals at Anfield. Envy. United fans obviously envious at the fact that they have been pumped compared to Liverpool. Wrath. The wrath of Klopp versus Ten Hag. End of an era, my arse, Klopp says. What else is there? Dejection speaks for itself. And then finally, pride or lack thereof for Manchester United fans. The 7 deadly sins. United losing to their arch rivals 7-0. I am joined by Gaskey, who is a Manchester United fan. I don't even think I need to ask you how you are, Gaskey.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, we will try to explore what on earth happened at Anfield throughout the course of this podcast. In addition, we'll be touching on, obviously talking about the capitulation of United, but also Liverpool. They scored 7 goals, so they're obviously pretty good. Are they back? What's the top 4 push going to look like with Spurs losing against Wolves? Arsenal in a very exciting comeback against Bournemouth, but is it sustainable? Is it a good sign or a bad sign that they've had to do this twice in the space of a couple of games? City beating Newcastle relatively comfortably. We'll also be taking some viewer questions as well in the NobGas section. But Gaskey, there's only one place to start, obviously. Liverpool.
Is there nowhere else? Are you sure? Can we go somewhere else?
Yeah, Nottingham Forest 2, Everton 2. No.
Well, that sounds good.
Liverpool 7, Manchester United 0. You're obviously a United fan, Gaskey. Before we even talk about the game and talk about the performance and just like emotions that you have, tell me.
It's just shock. It's just shock of when you've watched them play for 3 to 4 months and you're happy. You see, there's an energy there. There's a good mentality there. There's, the squad's playing well. Players are improving. Even the first half felt like, the game plan was working. Survived the Liverpool onslaught, settled into the game. They were winning the ball back in their half. They were having chances. And then I think it should have been about probably 0-0 at half time. And they went, they sucker punch the 1-0 goal. And you think, okay, I can see you could have a chance to come back here. So this could be good. And then there wasn't the same team that came out in the second half at all. They just didn't care. There was just no energy. It was half-arsed. The fact that I think probably 4 of their goals came from just counter-attacks from corners, I think, or something stupid, was just like, just couldn't be bothered. And I don't know what else to say, really. It was just a shock that to come on the back of such great games that they've played over the last few months to that, I don't know. It's just, I think Ten Hag's realised that in that squad still is just a lack of mentality there still, no matter how good they are, that needs sorting.
Definitely, yeah. Ten Hag said it was unprofessional. He said that his players didn't track back, they didn't fight. A damning verdict in what's supposed to be United's biggest game of the season against their arch rivals away from home. And it was really weird. Let's talk about the match right now, shall we? So the first half, you said it yourself. I thought it was 50-50. I thought that you could have edged it maybe to United, actually. I think that...
because it was 20 minutes for one, 20 minutes for the other. That's how I look at it. And, Bruno had a great chance to go 1-0 up with his header. Mm-hmm. It was unlucky, it was he did the right thing, just went wide. Your sucker punch came, just a couple of errors, went to a goal, and it was a shock because they're not usually, they don't make many errors in defence anymore. It didn't seem anyway. And then they came back out as if like, well, let's watch Liverpool play for a bit. They don't care. It was just odd.
It was very unusual. Bruno had that header. Rashford had that glorious chance where Shaw put a really nice cross in, and Rashford, on his form, you'd expect him to score it. Then they had another. Antony forced Alisson into a decent save. It seemed like every time United were coming forwards, they came forwards less than Liverpool, but every time they came forwards, you're like, oh, there could be a goal for United here. And then in terms of Liverpool's goal, Antony, I think we'll get into Antony specifically later because I've got some questions for you on him. He's not really doing anything. Fred is then caught out of position. Ball comes in, and it's a really nice touch by Gakpo and a lovely finish. But a player of Varane's experience should know that Gakpo all day is going to want to try to cut in on his stronger foot, and he just like commits himself too much, and then obviously the goal is scored. But the game is still there. It's only 1-0. What on earth happened? I don't even understand.
The second one just comes from do you know what? There's that many goals, I can't remember what happened at each one. So, the second goal goes in, and then after that, it just seemed like I can't remember which goal it was. It was the one when the ball was right in front of De Gea. They all looked at it, and they were just looking at the ball. And then Shaw just goes, I'm just going to boot it then. Boots his own player and he bounces straight to Nunes to tap it in an open net. And I just thought, I remember Salah. I just thought, what are you even doing? This is what school kids do.
Yeah. The second goal was, if memory serves, that was the first Nunez header where Elliott crossed it in. But in the build-up to that, the United had about 5, maybe even 6 opportunities to clear it. They lost every single 50-50. It was like Casemiro lost that a couple of times, and then Luke Shaw lost it 2 or 3 times. And they had so many chances to clear it. Yeah. But just hoof it. Just do something.
Exactly. Like, it was just amazing me that a team can go from, like, I said before we started, I'm not going to alienate players, but this is what's going to end up happening now. But Shaw went from like a 9 to a 3 in the space of about half an hour. First half, it was terrific. His passes was fantastic. Second half, it was just like, I don't care anymore. Mm-hmm. It's hard to analyse when you're just shocked by how bad it was.
Yeah. It was just very unusual. Third goal, I'm struggling to think. Third goal, that was the one where Martinez got he got embarrassed.
Oh, no, let's be fair. No, yeah, Salah rinsed him there. Mm-hmm. Like, he was like, that's how good Salah can be. And we know how good Salah is, so. Yeah. And that was just fantastic from Salah, yeah.
Yeah, that was good play. And then Gakpo chipped it over to Gea.
That was a lovely finish as well. See, that out of all the goals, that was probably the good goal. The rest of them, it's avoidable. Let's be fair.
Yeah, but it was the fact. In fact, I'm gonna get the exact minutes in which the goals came, because I feel like there was like a 5-10 minute. I think
the second and the third one, that's when it seemed to go wrong, was like 47th and 50th, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, so 2 minutes into the second half, they conceded, and then 3 minutes after that, conceded. Yeah. Now at that point, surely for
me, that's damage limitation. Exactly. You're like, no, let's just see if we can nick one, but let's not embarrass ourselves. And like it happened, I think similar happened against City. You just didn't change it. It just carried on. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to be like, let's rest now. Let's rest players, because at that point, that was when we'll bring McTominay on now. And it's like, right, okay, these players need a rest. They do need a rest, because you're playing however many games. I think they played 6 games more than Liverpool. In the last month or whatever it is, I can't remember. And you're making these subs now, and it's like they're gonna have to survive on the pitch, because McTominay's not going to stop them scoring. So it just went from bad to worse, didn't it? If it finished 3-0, I would have gone horrendous performance. We move on. 7-0, it's like, what the hell?
Now, why is that the case? Because a 3-0, you should be having those talks about, right, no more. The game's gone. Yeah. Doesn't matter, there's 40 minutes left. No more goals get put in. But the fact is, even at 7-0, there was a situation where Liverpool had 4 players against 3 United players in attack. So United are still committing loads of bodies forward at 7-0.
From what I've seen, I'm pretty sure three of them came from United attacks from corners, and they counted them. Yeah. With 3 people back, and it's like you're 5-0 down.
Now, why is that,
3 defenders back.
Why is that?
Exactly, why? But is that because... But then in my head, I'm thinking, Ten Hag's not going to tell him to do that. He's not going to be like, keep attacking like absolute nutters. You're 5-0 down. That's, to me, is like the players, if that's what I mean, the players have given up. They've just gone, we'll do whatever we want. Let's go and try and get a goal. And they've all just kind of gone with the same attitude, and then left the defence exposed. And I can't see how you can say, oh, Ten Hag, just let him do that. I think they've just gone rogue. To be fair, I think they've just gone, let's just do what we want. And that's the worrying part.
I'm just trying to think of why that's the case. It's so that sounds like a lack of direction and leadership on the pitch. If you don't think it was a Ten Hag issue,
oh, definitely. And then when you got to play like Bruno, who'd rather at 5-0 throw yourself about on the floor rather than getting the team together, it does concern you. It's like that's the guy who's the captain. Gets tapped on the chin and he throws himself to the ground and starts pushing linesmen. No, it's like. What is wrong with you? And then at one point, I'm pretty sure Shaw wanted to have a fight with Núñez. It's like you're 5-0 down. Just having fights on the pitch is not going to change anything. You're going to make yourself look more of a prick. Just your heads have gone down. Just try and survive the rest of the match now and keep the score limit down.
Definitely. It was just pure petulance from Bruno multiple times. So not the first time I've seen it from him. Obviously, he seems like an incredibly unlikable footballer.
Yeah, no, I don't like him. I can't stand the bloke. Right,
as a person rather than a footballer.
That's what I mean. I don't like him as a person, but I've seen it from Ronaldo the first time around. He would throw himself on the ground, not get what he wants, throw his toys at the pram, stand offside for about 5 minutes and walk back. I've seen it from players and players and players do it. So the players do it all over the world, and it is annoying as a person. But you see the stats he brings up, and there's no one else who can do what he does in terms of being able to kind of connect the dots, get a goal out of nothing, from like just playing it through the lines, and have that tracking ability and that just the energy. And when he's just not doing it, something's wrong. Like I think there was one when he stuck his foot out trying to win the ball and just give up. Yeah. And when your captain's doing that and the player who does all the running does that, you've got a problem.
Before this game, there was some stats about like Varane, Martinez, and Casemiro when they've been on the pitch together. Haven't conceded open play.
Yeah, they haven't conceded open play. But that was like that's a BS stat because there's like 6 games they played together.
Really? Oh,
yeah, they've not played together over many games. It's like the City game. Casemiro wasn't in the team. I think the only game they'd lost was the Villa one. I think when they were all on the pitch together, but they haven't played many together on the pitch. I don't think.
Yeah, so but obviously, they've had very good individual seasons, Casemiro especially. Yeah. But they're all terrible. And Martinez was terrible, Varane was terrible, Casemiro terrible. Was it just for those players that we expected from some players, like Shaw, for example? He can be good, but we know he can drop clangers very quickly.
Yeah.
But those 3 players seem to be the more consistent ones. So why is that the case? Is it because Liverpool were just too much for them? Is it just one of those days and they were all happened to have a bad day at the same time? Or fitness? Or what do you think?
My argument would be, right, there's 11 people on a football pitch, 11 people on a team, right? That's 3 of them. You can't expect 3. It's in that little triangle, you can't expect them to do everything. And yeah, okay, everyone had a bad game. This is why I just said we don't want to alienate anyone. They all had bad games. And at 3-0, you go, it's a blip, right? There's going to be blips, You've seen Guardiola's first season, I think they lost 3-0 to Swansea, didn't they, or something like that. These games happen, and it shouldn't happen as much as they do, but they happen. I think Gary Neville said after the game, when he was, I think it was like 94 or something, like they lost 5-0, 6-2 and stuff, and they still won the league. So these results happen. I'm not trying to, I'm not masking over it. It was horrendous. But a 7-0, that's the problem. 7-0 is where you go, what the hell?
Well, it's a record defeat.
No, exactly. 3 or 4, you're like, that is a disgraceful performance, but it's a blip. But a 7-0, you're like, how have you allowed it to get that bad? That's the concern.
The lack of game management, the lack of just no more goals, please.
Well, exactly. And now you've got to do what you did after the Brentford game and somehow rally the troops again. And be like, right, you've got to get to the end of the season now. And literally immaculate. Because teams will now see that and they'll sniff about. Tottenham will sniff about. Liverpool will be sniffing about top 4. Even Newcastle could be. That United could drop off. And that's what you've got to avoid now. And not throw away your season because you decided to have the worst 45 minutes that's ever been seen in the Premier League. So
I know you don't want to alienate individual players, but I'm going to bring up one, Antony. I don't like to be too harsh to players in their first season at a new club in a new league. It's obviously very tricky for them. We've spoken about Antony before on the podcast. From what I've seen, I didn't watch him at Ajax. I can only do it based on what I've seen at United. He appears to be a goal-scoring winger who doesn't score that many goals. What does Antony do, Gaskey?
See, Antony is very similar to what Vegas does. He runs a lot, and that's why Ten Hag likes him, because he does like. This is why I don't want to. When you're asking me these questions, I don't want to talk about this game, because this game is horrendous. Because he does normally just completely track back and cover the fullback, and that's why he plays him, because he does cover and he does help, and he picks the ball up in his own third and he gets it out.
So why didn't he do that against Liverpool?
But that's exactly that. That's why it's like, what's going on? Because he doesn't do. He always does it. He always covers and he always wins the ball back. And then, but what changed? Like, why? It's the one example of why have these just stopped? You know, like you said, it could be a tactic thing. It could be like, get behind Robbo and get him to drop back. You know, and kind of pull him back, and it didn't work. You weren't getting the ball or whatever. So it's just another weird one. Like, you've been playing a certain way for months, and it's just like the whole system just got binned off in 45 minutes. It's just, this is why it's hard to just analyse the match, because when you're analysing over a few months of just constant good performances, when it all vanishes, it's hard just to be like, I don't know. Yeah, that's the answer. Is like, I don't know, because you've watched it for so many times, for so many weeks, for it just to all crumble. It's just a shock. Definitely. You know, like attackingly, he's poor. In terms of in the final third, you know, his crossing was abysmal in that first half. He was winning fouls, which was great. You know, he was stopping them. He was causing, you know, to slow play down. But his crossing was a bit awful. He wasn't getting past the first man. And then his shots are just not reliable enough to kind of get, like, you know, if, for example, Iron Robin, if he would swing the crossing and be rubbish, you know he's going to whip one in top corner, because, you know, he's good at that. But he's so hit and miss at everything he does, it's not reliable enough. And that's what he needs to improve on. But his tracking's normally fine. And it's just so odd.
Yeah, it's weird. What I did do, even though I didn't see him at Ajax today, I did just check like his metrics and data from last year in the Dutch league. I know it's the Dutch league, but still. And like Antony was like, you know, in like the top 5%, top 10% in terms of, you know, goals and assists and expected assists and progressive parries and progressive carries. And this year at United, the only stat that's like in a similar one is the progressive carries, so where he carries the ball, but he's not actually doing anything when he carries the ball. He's not, so his shot creating actions have plummeted. So whilst he's progressing the ball, he's not this season. That's one thing he is doing compared to his time at Ajax. Not actually doing anything with it when he gets into those positions for the most part. So that's why I said he's like he seems to be a goal scoring winger, because he doesn't really create that much from what I can see. He's a goal scoring winger, but he doesn't actually, you know, score that many goals. But maybe it's just because it's his first season, and do you still, like, you know, obviously want to give him time?
I mean, yeah, you've got to. You can't, you know, look at, like, Sancho just crumbled, and then he's come back a couple of games before I think he was ill this week or something. A couple of games, and he was great. They popped him in at number 10 against Leicester, and that was the best I've seen him play this season. That second half of Leicester, him at 10, it was perfect. But it's a lot. It takes a lot of work. We've said for what, 7 years, that United is going to need a complete rebuild, a complete overhaul, and it's been is just masking over cracks after every year after year after year. You need someone who's just going to empty the squad and get their own squad in, and it's going to take time. It always does. And the start of it is hoping these new owners come in and let him do that. You know, because like I think they said last week, these players like Langer and McTominay who are not good enough, whereas teams like City and Liverpool are selling them players off and bringing in better players, which is how you stay at the top, especially in modern football with the way money's going. And that's what needs to be done. And that's where, you know, these results are going to happen. They shouldn't be 7-0, but these results are going to happen until someone's allowed to strip the squad down, like Klopp's done at Liverpool and Guardiola did, and build it up how they want it.
Last thing on United, before we just talk about Liverpool and their top 4 race, is this result... Obviously, the result matters because it's a derby, and you don't want to lose, don't want to get embarrassed, but does it actually sort of matter in the grand scheme of things in terms of, well, United are still going to finish third, and they've still got the League Cup trophy, and overall the season's been good. So I know a lot of people will overreact and say, no, Ten Hag out to get this player out, but does it actually matter that much?
It depends. To me, it depends how the season finishes, because if from now they're so wobbly, you know, it's like a win-loss draw to the end of the season, and they scrape it, and you think that results not the confidence. But if they bounce back and win 4 in a row, and then, they've won they've finished top 4, win a Carabao Cup, you'd be like, okay, apart from these dodgy, horrendous performances you had, we've actually, we've got Champions League football in a very competitive league and won a trophy for the first time in 6 years. So that's a good start. Push on. None of this, and hopefully it pushes on in the summer and it's not, we'll just panic sign on deadline day and doesn't get, allowed to let anyone leave. That's what you're going to hope for. The interesting part's going to be, I think in April is when they play Chelsea-Tottenham, so they need to win every game now up till then.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I think they've got Southampton, Newcastle, and someone else near the bottom in the next 3 games, and you need to win all 3.
Definitely. So, 100%. That is United. Gaskey's obviously angry and upset, and why wouldn't you be? Very, very weird record defeat. The last time they lost 7-0 was 1930, so in like 100 years from now, we'll be still talking about...
We'll talk about this game.
Exactly. That's how mental it is. But, bigger picture, United are still comfortably in 3rd. It's just whether they allow it to derail their season or not. But there was obviously another team in this fixture who did score the 7 goals. Liverpool were brutal and very clinical. I think they had 8 shots on target and 7 of them went in. Obviously, most of that is due to, questionable defending, questionable goalkeeping, but you still have to score the goals, and Nunez, Salah, Gakpo especially were very, very good. Firmino, he's probably going to leave at the end of the season, so he got his farewell goal or whatever. That's nice. Liverpool have been relatively poor this season, but huge win for them. Also big on the goal difference. Now it means their goal difference is much better than Spurs, who you think would be their top 4 rival. Especially with Spurs losing 1-0 against Wolves, it means that if Liverpool win their game in hand, they go 4th.
I think they're 4 points behind them now with a game in hand. I think they're over 1.
Oh, maybe are they? Let me have a look. Let me just double check, because I thought they were only
It could be less than that. I thought it was 4.
So it's 3 right now.
Is it 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do have a game in hand.
So then the goal difference. So they will go top 4.
Yeah, with a much better goal difference. So if they win their game in hand, they go top 4.
It's Newcastle with a game in hand.
Right.
Newcastle with a game in hand.
Now,
but they're going the other way.
Now I've got a question about that. Obviously, it's very good for Liverpool. Not just this game, but the fact that a really impressive win against Newcastle away. Now an impressive win against Man United. But Liverpool have been poor this season, especially compared to their high standards. But if they win their next game, they're going to be 4th in the table. So how, without wishing to sound like I'm being incredibly disrespectful to, every single team in the league, how weak and bad has this Premier League season been and the teams in the league been if Liverpool, who are having one of their worst seasons in however many years, if they get top 4, how bad is the rest of the league? If a team that's been bad, for their standards and just generally in some games, getting embarrassed sometimes, and they get 4th place, what does that say about the rest of the league?
Well, yeah, it does, doesn't it? Because you look at, I think we said, didn't we? It seems to be, you've got your City and your Arsenal at the top, and there's this huge gap between everyone else. United, let's be fair, it's the way they've played and stuff. 3rd's probably fair for them to be in, but they shouldn't have a gap. They should be, worrying about the teams below them. But yeah, the rest of the league's just poor. The fact that Brighton probably playing the best football, bar the top 2, and they're sniffing about. And Tottenham are just so hit and miss. Liverpool have had a really, really bad period, first half of the season, and they just need to do the opposite. United now they've took 7-0. Push on and win loads of games and let the teams know that they're there fighting for this top 4. And for them to go from hit them and Liverpool when they drew 0-0 against Chelsea and they were 9th and 10th and it was they're just mid-table teams now and they've come out of nowhere. That's how close it is. So Chelsea could win 4 in a row and they could be in it. It's all it takes. And it does show how weak the league is. If it's that close between 10th and I don't think I've ever seen it this close between basically bottom half and 4th.
Yeah,
Tiny gap.
it's just unusual. Towards the lower end, it's even and competitive. Like the relegation race is really interesting. Like there are 9 teams in the race, like and no one's 100% gone yet, which is interesting. But
It's gonna be like the first bad run, isn't it? Going into April, where that's the worst run. He's just gonna go straight to the bottom.
yeah, but in terms of like the highest level, even City and Arsenal, compared to City and Liverpool of like recent years, they're nowhere near the level of like of those two sides. It's a very very weird season. In case you're wondering what happened on the video podcast, by the way, my kitten just ran in and screamed at me, so I was like, "What's going on?" In case you're like,
caught me off guard.
Yeah, Eva's just like, yeah, she was popping off, but there we go. Yeah, so really weird league, but Liverpool will not care about that if it means they get Champions League football. And I think I'm going to change my mind now. I think I'm going to predict Liverpool to finish 4th, because Spurs are Spurs, and I can't really trust them.
It's the story of the Tottenham, isn't it? As Keelan said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Never a true word said. And then just touching on Arsenal and Man City. Man City beating Newcastle 2-0 in what turned out to be a relatively comfortable day. Newcastle did have a couple of chances at 1-0 up, but City were easily the better side there. Foden, once again, played really well. Haaland playing well despite not getting a goal, but created the second goal really nicely. And then, don't know if you saw it, Gaskey, but I absolutely adored, sort of like in the 90th minute, City just kept it in the corner, and it was Grealish and Haaland, and they were just being like the biggest shit houses ever, and like they won like 3 or 4 corners in a row, and Haaland was just like laughing. I just thought it was really funny.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that was good. And City had to win because Arsenal just about beat bottom of the table
last kick
Bournemouth with basically the last kick of the ball. Now, this has been sort of viewed as a really positive thing, and that Arsenal coming back from behind, fighting to the end, character, 98th minute winner, never giving up, and I totally understand that. But for me, there are still 12 games. Yeah, there are still 12 games left. If this was like the last 5 games or something, and didn't all it mattered was getting the results, I would totally agree with that. But it's the fact that they've conceded 3 against City, they conceded 2 against Villa, and I know that was 4-2, but really it was 3-2 because of the manner in which the 4th goal happened. Again, they had to come back from behind there. It was like a late minute screamer, like a really low probability shot, which actually was an own goal. And again, to go 2-0 down against currently the worst team in the league, in Bournemouth, at home, and to rely on a 98th minute screamer, I totally get where that's coming from, but it's not sustainable to do that over and over and over again, because it's really hard to score 3 goals. And if you concede 2 and you want to win, you've got to score 3.
Yeah.
So, am I being too harsh, Gaskey? Or
no, I wouldn't say so. Like, I've watched United under Fergie. They've done this plenty of times, but on a weekly basis is when you have to be like, what is going on at that in defensively? Because I'm pretty sure, but didn't Bournemouth have a 3-on-1 chance as well? They should have bagged.
Yes,
that would have been 3-0, and that against Bournemouth, who I assume the bottom of goals scored probably, or maybe near there.
Around there, yeah.
They don't score a lot, so you've gone 2-0 down against them. So what's going wrong there? What's happening? Okay, yeah, they got a good mentality because they've just come back from 2-0 down. But yeah, on a weekly basis, it shouldn't be happening. You've conceded 7 in 3, and somehow come out with 6 points, which is a sign of champions, like you said, when there's 5 games left. But they've still got to play City again. They've still got, I think, Chelsea again or something like that.
Anfield as well.
They've still got to go to Anfield. And if Liverpool are fighting back and Liverpool do what they go no nonsense again, you never know.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not sustainable to do every week. So they need some results where they have just they have 85% possession against Bournemouth as well,
something like that,
which is ridiculous. They need to have games now where they're winning comfortably, just to get that the fear in the teams again, because teams will see these results and think, do you know what, we can hold on, we can take these. And that's the sign where you can end up being like, bugger, these teams aren't backing down now. And that could be the fear.
And even next game is away against Fulham. On paper, that is a really hard game. Fulham are a good team.
They're very well at the moment.
Yeah, so it's obviously, if they win the title, it's irrelevant. But
Well, yeah.
I just feel like you don't want to be relying on that right now so closely to another game where you also had to rely on that. You are going to get found out. You aren't going to be able to score 2 or 3 goals every single game. And also, let's not forget, Bournemouth, the worst team in the league so far, against top of the table.
Away as well.
Yeah, if that was like a more competent team, if that was like I know I'm going to say Spurs in the same sentence as competent, but if that was Spurs, for example, and they went 2-0 up, and it's in like, what was it, the 60th or whatever minute, Spurs set up shop, and that's the end of the game. You don't score 3 goals.
I wouldn't even say Spurs. I'd say like a Fulham or even a Brighton. Those teams who are like like your mid-table, a little bit above, 2-0 up, you're going to find it difficult.
Yeah, so obviously huge narrative in the title race, given the context of it. But if you analyse it from the perspective of they should have beaten Bournemouth anyway. The only reason why City fans such as I got any hope was because of the context. But going into the match, you're like, well, yeah, Arsenal are going to win this one 5-0. The fact that they didn't, you can look at it 2 ways. You can say, well, character.
They went 1-0 up straight away, didn't they? And it was like, oh, they're still going to win it though. It didn't mean anything. And then the 2-0, you were like, ooh, that's good. This is odd. They've got 85% position, they haven't scored yet, and then they score straight away, and it's like, right, okay.
Yeah.
It's going to happen then.
I just think a more competent, and even that 98th minute win, and no Bournemouth player goes to properly close down the shot.
Oh, that is why they're bottom. You watch that goal, that is why they're struggling. It was just a bit of a, I'll stick a foot out and see what happens. It's just like, block the bloody thing.
Yeah, so I understand both perspectives. If I'm an Arsenal fan, obviously I'm going to go down the line of, yeah, we've got character, and with the sign of champions. But I think more objectively, you can say. I
mean, if you're playing, if it was like Arsenal City and that happened, you'd be like, that is sign of champions. But it's Bournemouth. You're doing it against Bournemouth, and next week, like you said, against Fulham, a team who's a bit more competent, might see that and be like, we can have them here because we're scoring. We're playing really well. Mm-hmm. They might go 2-0 up at Craven Cottage, and then what happens then?
Definitely. Something's got to change. They've got to try to rediscover their form and like mystique they had, in the first half of the season. But now they've just been too leaky recently. In fact, I think this people talk about City's defence. They've conceded the same number of goals as City this season in the Premier League. So I think something's for Arsenal to be champions. I think they've got to change something. They cannot keep relying on that because it's, as I say, it's very hard to score 3 goals in a game when you give yourself that sort of hurdle to climb. But guys, that is a roundup of the most interesting and exciting matches. Obviously, there were some other matches, but we feel like the storylines in these ones were most relevant. And obviously, we had to talk about the 7-0 in length because,
sadly,
I know Gaskey's a United fan, obviously, and it's been mental, to be honest. But there we go.
It's all here and it's all football, all the time.
Right, we're going to play a mini game, slightly different one. Now, this isn't an original idea at all, but this was submitted in NobGas, where the Noblets get to ask questions. And DR's Noblet question was, can you play football noughts and crosses with this sheet? I think it might be from another football podcast. I think they're an AGP podcast, I'm assuming that is. So shout out to them. We've stolen your idea just for this section.
What we do. It's what we do over here at the NobCast.
Indeed, yes. But so shout out to them. But yeah, as I say, this has been submitted by DR to do. So this is not, I believe in like America it's called tic-tac-toe. In England it's called noughts and crosses. I'm just going to flip a coin, by the way, just see who starts first. Gaskey, do you want heads or tails?
Tails never fails.
It is tails.
Ah, I see.
So you get to go first. Okay, so in case you look doing the audio of it, basically there's a cross section and there's 2 different rows of clubs, and you need to identify a player who's played for both clubs in order to get the hit there. So, for example, Inter Bayern Munich is the middle square, City United is the bottom left square. I put a visual on the screen, but I'm not really going to be able to do the actual writing in, so you just have to use your imagination, but we'll try to keep up. Okay, Gaskey. Oh, yes. So you're first.
I'm first.
Where would you like to go?
I'm going to start with bottom right.
Okay.
So City and Chelsea, and I'm going to go with Nicholas Anelka.
Good shout. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't go for Raheem Sterling, to be honest, but that works as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's mix it up a bit. Keep it interesting.
No,
yeah.
that's fine. So you've gone bottom right. So I'm going to go for the middle square, which is the best square.
Can I guess who you're going to go for? Oh, I can't do that, can I? Can I give it away if it's wrong?
Well,
I'll let you guess who you're going
I've got
for.
one who I know is correct. So I'm going for Lothar Matthäus in the middle.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Perisic.
Oh, yeah, that would have been better, wouldn't it? Yeah, that would have been more obvious. There we go.
So
I've got it in the middle.
I'm filling it in on my screen, so I know.
No, that's a good idea.
Okay, I'm going to take the bottom left, so United and City, and I'm going to go with Carlos Tevez.
Okay. So I've now got to go for City, Bayern Munich, or you win. Jerome Boateng.
Oh,
He played for City very... I could have just gone for Cancelo, actually, couldn't I?
Oh, yeah, you could have gone for Cancelo. Right, so I need to take the Bayern Munich Barcelona square.
Yes.
Stop me winning. I'm going to go with... I think... did he play for...
I've got one. I've got one.
I'm going to go for...
Oh, you better get it right.
Oh, I'm sure he's played for both. I'm going to go for... There's a Brazilian called Rafinha, and I'm sure he's played for both.
I think...
Oh, no!
Oh!
I just thought of an obvious one. Bugger. I hope it's right.
What's he called? Rafinha?
Rafinha, PH, yeah. There is another Rafinha.
I was going to say... I would have just said Coutinho.
I was gonna say Thiago. That came to mind as soon as I said Rafinha.
Rafinha...
I'm sure there is. I'm sure he's played for both.
There we go, Rafinha.
He's two. I think he's the right back. I think he's right back.
Well, I've got one who played for Bayern Munich in 2016, but I can't see any Barcelona connection. One. Well, find him for me.
Let me find him.
But there's a footballer called Rafinha, born in 1985. I think I remember him. I think he had like a dusty card on FIFA, if memory serves. He may play for Brazil 4 times.
No, not that one. There's another. I'm sure there is. There's another Rafinha. This guy. Unless he's... Oh, wait. Is this the guy I was thinking of? I thought he played for... No, I thought he played for Barcelona.
Oh, you fraud.
Bottled it.
Right, there we go. So I will take that final square. Barca, Bayern Munich, Coutinho.
Oh, no. I'm such an idiot. I thought he played for both. I'm sure he did.
What a fraud you are.
I am a fraud.
There we go. Well,
stupid game.
Should we fill in the other squares just for fun?
My week gets worse. Yeah, we can do. I'm going to say then, I'm going to do Inter Milan, Chelsea, Lukaku.
Yep, good. Man United, Inter Milan, Darmian.
Lovely. United, Barca, Henrik Larsson.
And I think that might be the last square, is it? Oh, no, Barca, Chelsea, Cesc Fabregas.
Lovely jubbly.
Yeah, I would have said Mark Hughes for Barca United.
Oh, just to be different.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. That was Noughts and Crosses. Oh gosh, I pressed the wrong button. I win. Okay, me. You lose, Gaskey.
And my week gets worse.
You stink.
I stink at these games.
Yeah, but there we go.
It.
Thank you, DR, for that one. If you guys enjoyed that, I'm sure we can do some. I'm sure the guys who invented the game don't actually care if we use their idea. So if you guys would like to see us do more football Noughts and Crosses and see if Gaskey can actually get a win, because I'm currently undefeated, 1-0.
Maybe one game.
Maybe I'll retire. Maybe I'll just end totally undefeated.
We don't play that anymore, are we?
But there we go. That just a one quick cheeky mini game this week. But now we are going to move on to your guys' questions.
Every football team will be playing football several times and in various combinations.
Okay, so we've got a fair few on...
Before we start the questions, I've just read them. Can I just go now? Can you answer them? I don't want to answer these.
Well, let's start with the ones which require less thought, because some of these are just insults. I mean, like Liam just says, who is a Liverpool fan, it just says, how does it feel to be embarrassed by your biggest rivals every season?
That's not a question I want to answer, so I refuse to answer that question.
Right, well, I'll answer it from the perspective of Gaskey. Because I wouldn't know, because City, don't normally get embarrassed by United nowadays. But right, sorry to keep rubbing it in, but that is mad, isn't it? Even when City were bad, United never beat us that badly.
But you know what's crazy though, right? All these rivalries. Solskjaer beat him the same amount, beat Guardiola the same amount of times as Guardiola beat him.
Yeah.
Out of all the managers, why him?
It's because he plays dusty counter-attacking football. That's why.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Did it work though? Did it work though?
Play to win.
What did
Ollie? It did work.
What did Ollie win? What did Ollie win?
He won a lot of semi. No, he lost a lot of semi-finals.
He won hearts and minds.
He won a lot of quarterfinals.
But there we go. That is Liam. Jack is a City fan. Asks, what are your favourite and least favourite Premier League stadiums? But you're not allowed to say the opposite. Our clubs.
Oh, right. So favourite. So are we going off? What are we going off? Are we going off the look and the atmosphere, etc.?
I think Jack wants favourite and least favourite. Like if you had to visit them.
Oh, I got to go to it. Favourite, I would say. Oh, it's gonna be interesting. I'd like to go to Craven Cottage just because of the nostalgia of it.
I've been to Craven Cottage. It is very pretty.
Yeah, I would like to go there just to even though you watch the TV, you think what a shithole, but it's just the nostalgia. It's very old. It's quite retro.
Mm-hmm.
Least favourite. Says least favourite.
Shall I give my favourites? Why are you thinking about least favourite?
Well, you give your favourite.
Yeah, so let me just touch on least favourite. I'm sorry, but Old Trafford is a dump. I know I'm not allowed to say Old Trafford, but it's a dump. Sorry about that, Gaskey, but it's a shithole.
It is a dump. Everyone knows it's a dump. It doesn't get looked after. It gets to a point when you get architects in and it has to be knocked down, then it won't surprise me.
So favourite stadiums that I'd like to... So I have been to Craven Cottage and Selhurst Park, and I love those grounds. I mean, Selhurst Park, the seats are rubbish, but the fans are mad, so they were great. Craven Cottage was the opposite. Fans were meh, but the stadium's lovely. I'd love to visit the new Spurs stadium because it's all fancy and modern and stuff.
I'm hoping I can get NFL tickets this year for that.
Oh, yeah. And they do all those events as well. For me, in terms of a least favourite stadium to visit, as much as I love Brighton Football Club, I've got some... Well, Mrs. Nobbins has some relatives who live in Brighton, and I've been reliably assured that the stadium is awful. Even though it's like modern and new, I've been told that it feels very hollow and plastic and fake in terms of everything.
It looks very generic.
Yeah. So
similar to Huddersfield. I've been to Huddersfield to watch rugby, and theirs is just a bit like it looks nice on the outside, but you look at it, it's like, oh, not really.
Yeah. So even though it's a pretty stadium, it's a little bit like empty, apparently.
Least favourite, I'd probably go for something like Bournemouth because they have to just temporarily expand it to get extra seats in and stuff. It just looks like a work in progress constantly,
and a long trip as well.
Exactly, and can't be asked. It's too far.
Definitely. There you go. So Brighton's a long way as well. So sorry about that, Brighton and Bournemouth, but I do not want to visit you. Miz asks, can you rate Man United's defence midfield attack?
Can we ask some more? Can we ask some better questions than these? These are disgraceful. I'm calling all the Noblets out. This is a joke. This is abuse. This is cyber abuse.
Not just for this game. I think he's talking about overall.
Overall, if I'm going off the season, I would say attack. I'd give it like a 7. Only because it's relied on Rashford too much. No one else has really pulled rank. Midfield, I would say I'd give it like a 9 because compared to previous seasons, it's been pile of shite, but it's been really good. Defense, an 8 probably. Apart from obviously yesterday, they've been a lot better. There's a bit of fire in them, which has been nice to see. So yeah, that's probably what I'd give.
That's good. Thank you for that, Miz. Pim asks, so we've talked about Antony and has he been good? I don't think he has been good, but it's his first season, so I'm not going to be too harsh. Do you want to rebut all that, Gaskey, or do you agree?
No, I'd say based on what's seen up to now, he's not. I'm trying to not think about the price tag because it's not my money. I don't care how much they pay. Doesn't make a difference to me.
They're overpaid, but not really relevant.
I'd only ever look at transfer fees if it come out as fact that the owners will not give more money. Then I'd be like, you've overpaid for players. But otherwise, I don't really care. But I'd say he's been under par.
Yeah,
under par.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. So Pim's questions were: has Antony been good, and should De Gea be let go?
The De Gea one's a bit of a tricky one because he's not a modern keeper. He's not. The way where football's going, his era's been passed. It's now. Yeah, it's probably they probably need to. I think the thought should be there to bring someone in to replace him. If it's not this season, it should be next. Not next season, it should be the one after. But they should be thinking now. Who can we bring in to replace him?
Yeah, he's
at least.
For me, he's it's sort of apt because they're I think they're a similar age and they're obviously in the same era. De Gea to Ten Hag is what Joe Hart was to Guardiola. I feel like, at the time,
it was like Joe Hart didn't fit the system, and then what was it? Bravo didn't fit the system, and then he found the perfect one. That's what it takes. Klopp did the same thing.
Yeah, Bravo was pants, but he did fit the system. He was just really bad at shot stopping that year. But the idea was there, and it allowed the rest of the team to get used to playing out from the back. Joe Hart just couldn't do it. Hence, it was harsh. City fans love Joe Hart, but he had to be let go. And do you feel like it's a similar situation with De Gea?
I think so. But I think what's more difficult for me with De Gea is you need to let him go at the right time, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want it to completely crumble and you leave on not bad terms, but like you need to go now. You need to be like, look, you're a club legend, most clean sheets, appearances, you're like top 10 now, the highest foreign player I think it is at United. Either step back and be the sub or move on.
And his contract is up this year, isn't it?
I think they've said that he's looking at agreeing a cut deal, like half wages and stuff.
What are your thoughts on that then? Because if De Gea stays, he's not going to stay as a backup, is he?
No, but it depends how long he does it. That's what I'm saying. Like if it's like a 2-year contract, then I could cope with that. But because you never know, like after a year they might be like, you can go. But I don't know. It depends what they do. If it's like a 3 or 4 year, I'd be like, for God's sake.
Is there a particular keeper on yours and United's radar?
I honestly don't know who's out there. Who's a young keeper? The only one is it the Porto one? Diogo Costa, that guy.
I know. I've been told about him.
Good.
Yeah.
He needs to be quite good. He played, apart from his dodgy antics he had in the World Cup.
Dean Henderson also still plays for United.
Yeah, but I think he's burnt bridges.
Right.
At United, because they're just the comments he made when he left and stuff. So
fair enough.
I don't know.
It'd be an interesting one. If I was a United fan, I think thanks for the memories, but it's time to evolve. It's time to move on. You can't play it from the back with De Gea, and therefore the team won't move on. It's not an era of pure shot stoppers anymore. You've also got to be able to play football as a keeper.
Yeah.
And De Gea's can't do that.
And his shot stopping is not as reliable as it used to be.
Yeah,
well.
If it was like De Gea from was it 2015 where he was like
was it Van Gaal's season?
Yeah,
I think it was
when
he could see the Titanic. It was ridiculous.
Exactly, yeah, but he's not doing that, so it's like
yeah.
And now Will asks. Now this is an important question because Will asks who has got the best back four in the Premier League. I'm going to give you some context though, Gaskey. Because this was before a goal had been scored in the game. Will has stated that Man United's back four this season has been better than Man City's back four. And he maintained that after the 7-0. So
that's a bit silly.
Well, I think so.
But this comes back to what I said last week about when a team is shit or something's really, really bad and it improves, it doesn't mean it's the best. United have gone from a back three of a 3 out of 10 to about a 7 out of 10. City's is a solid 8 on a bad day. And that's the difference. I think City's is the best back four in the Prem. Just they're so comfortable. They've conceded more than they usually do, but it doesn't mean that they're doing a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, and Will made sure to specify back four because he doesn't want to include the keeper in that. Just to let you know.
But then you might as well say your back six because it includes the keeper, and most teams have a holding midfielder now. So you might as well say back six.
Yeah, and this is where I struggled with it because I was trying to because I didn't know if Will meant like on form or as overall players or collectively.
Oh, yeah, it needs more context than that. But
to be fair, every single one, I wouldn't say United.
No, I wouldn't either. I'd say United. I think before the last, obviously the Liverpool game, you would look at it and you think it's in terms of current form, it's close. They're up there for like top 3. But obviously, what happened yesterday was like this is what they're capable of doing. Still, so they just kind of throw it up in there.
Yeah, like if you just compare it to City, for example, I don't think Shaw's been better than Ake this season. You can argue it if you want. I don't think Shaw's been better than Ake.
That one I would say probably very close.
Yeah.
But I'd say well, it's not if you go individually. I would say it's not ridiculously like he's miles better. But
no, yeah.
Yeah, but City's is still better.
Yeah. yeah, there you go. That's Gaskey's thoughts on that. Thank you so much for your questions. If you guys would like to support the channel and get involved on the questions in the NobGas section, the Patreon link is in every single YouTube video description for your viewing pleasure.
It is impossible to keep track of all the football, but your best chance is here.
And that takes us to the end of the podcast, really, Gaskey. We'll just have a very quick chat about the preview for next week's matches. In fact, by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be today's matches, because nothing really exciting is happening in the Premier League. You know, Arsenal play away against Fulham, might be interesting. City play away against Palace, might be interesting, but nothing too major. But it is obviously the Champions League, which is back. There's obviously the huge clash between Benfica and Bruges. I think we all know where that's going to go.
Scott Parker's Bowie Army.
Yeah. I think Benfica are winning that 2-0 right now, so you expect, and I think they played away from home as well, so you expect them to win that. But there is a very interesting game. In fact, I'm sporting the shirt. Chelsea take on Dortmund at Stamford Bridge. They go into it 1-0 down. They suffered a sucker punch goal on the counter-attack in Germany, and it's a potentially big chance for Potter to get some credit in the bank following on that Leeds victory, and to try to silence and quell some of the haters. Gaskey, what do you think is going to happen in this game? Is Jude Bellingham going to run the show, for example?
It's going to be one of these where will the fans get behind the team for basically, what is it they say, suck the ball into the goal, and I think that'll play a mark on the game. But I'm gonna go with a 1-0 Dortmund. I think.
Oh, so 2-0 aggregate.
Bellingham will score 1-0 Dortmund. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Gaskey's betting tips.
No, that's good. I like that. I'm gonna say that Chelsea will upset. Because I think Dortmund are probably the favourites going into this because they are 1-0 up in aggregate. I'm going to say that Chelsea win, and it's going to go to extra time and penalties. And Chelsea are going to win on penalties. It's going to be exciting.
Ooh. Who's going to miss for Dortmund then?
I think that Kepa's going to save one, and he's going to save it.
He doesn't save penalties.
Well, that's why it's going to be such a weird event, because he is going to save it.
He's going to save a Bellingham penalty.
No, Bellingham will go first and he'll score. It's gonna go quite. I don't know where Schlotterbeck ranks on the penalty takers, but he's going to take a penalty and he's going to miss for Germany for Dortmund. Sorry,
you're committed here, aren't you? Some thought's gone into this.
Yeah, hashtag your call on Coral.
Your brain's just gone through all of the Dortmund defenders until you get one game through.
Exactly. Well, exactly, and it's going to be deep into the shootout, and he's going to have his penalty saved, and Potter's Chelsea will squeeze through. And then it's more Champions League next week. I think the more interesting games are happening next week. Let me double check. I think that's when it's Bayern and PSG. Oh no, wait, is that this week as well?
This week. That's tomorrow.
Excellent. We could talk about that. Oh, I forgot about that. Well, there you go. There's two other games we can very quickly talk about. Spurs and
podcast fantastic, isn't it?
Spurs and AC Milan. Gaskey. Milan winning 1-0 currently.
Milan will be comfortable, I think. Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
Interesting. And then obviously Bayern versus PSG. Bayern winning 1-0. This game is back in Germany. I think Bayern are going to win that one really comfortably.
I think they'll be fine. PSG are just their problem is the league they're in. It has to be, because it's too easy for them, isn't it?
And there's no Neymar either.
Very dusty. I mean, and let's be fair, it's not going to change anything, is it? Wow. Bayern Munich is still going to win.
I mean, to be fair, it might make them better because it means they don't have three passengers on the pitch. They've only got two.
Less ego.
Who knows? But that'll be interesting. We'll obviously doing watch-alongs for those. Guys, that was the NobCast. That was the podcast. Really hope you enjoyed it. I know Gaskey's had a whale of a time reminiscing about the 7-0 for about 20 minutes. I'm sure.
I thought this match finished at 6 o'clock yesterday. I guess it doesn't.
So there we go. Commiserations, obviously. Do like F in the chat, in the chat, F in the comments for Gaskey or something. Pay respect for this man who's gone through an emotional trauma.
If I see no F's, I'll be upset.
But I've been Nobbins.
I've been Gaskey.
And we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye, guys.